Overnight, President Trump gets a big win in a California courtroom. He will keep control over the thousands of National Guard troops deployed to L.A. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals says the president, quote, likely acted within his authority to federalize those troops. In their decision, the judges cited growing violence at last week's anti-ICE protests, including protesters pinning down federal officers, throwing chunks of concrete, and forcing the closure of at least one federal building. The judges say the law Trump used to deploy the guardsmen without the governor's approval doesn't require the governor's consent, and that Governor Newsom has no power to veto or countermand the president's order. Now, Governor Newsom says that while the ruling went against him, it does show the president must answer to the courts. Newsom is now considering taking the case even higher.
Do you see how dumb our politicians are, bro? Y'all see how dumb our politicians are? It was already dumb for them to spend money to bring this lawsuit in the first place. When we seen Gavin Newsom, and I reviewed that on this channel, and Gavin Newsom was sitting there and he was saying, yeah, man, we're going to go and we're going to, sue the Trump administration for deploying National Guards into Los Angeles in order to stop them from rioting, because they were rioting. They were not peaceful protesting. And you can't incite people to riot more by protecting federal buildings. Let's be clear. If a person is going to do something negative, they're not going to see a National Guardsman or a Marine and say, oh my God, you guys have pissed me off even more. Now I'm really going to tear up the city. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You can't incentivize people by protecting federal buildings and saying, yeah, man, you made them riot even more. No, these is demons. These is demons. So they stood tall and they protect the federal buildings. And then Gavin Newsom came through and said, I'm going to sue the Trump administration and all of this other shit. And he's posturing. What they don't tell y'all, the Jasmine Crockett's, the Gavin Newsoms, all of these people, the Karen Basses and all of those people, what they don't tell y'all is that all of these lawsuits, they have lost. When they initially get a judge to do something, oh man, you got to stop the layoffs of the USAID members. You can't have the Department of Government Efficiency auditing the federal government. You can't deploy the National Guard in order to protect federal buildings in Los Angeles. And they filed hundreds of lawsuits against the Trump administration. Trump has literally won all of them. When they kick it up to a higher appeals court, Trump has control and he has won all of them. And so you never see Democrats come back and say, you know what? We wasted our time. We filed these lawsuits. We was wrong. You never see them come back and actually say that they were off, they were wrong, they didn't make the right decision, and none of that stuff. You know what you see them say? They just move over to the next lawsuit. They continue to use taxpayer dollars to go after even more, and it's the dumbest thing ever. So while Gavin Newsom was sitting there telling you that he's going to sue the Trump administration, and Trump wins, and he can continue to control the National Guard, and so Trump has to do the best thing for the American people, all of these Democrats are just posturing. They're just posturing. That's it.
He wrote, quote, the president is not a king and is not above the law.
That's why you see these no king protests, is because these politicians are giving them the narrative that they've been used for propaganda and to print their signs. And then next thing you know, you got a no kings protest across the United States of America. And you know what they still doing? Deporting niggas, getting them up out of here. Getting them up out of there. Maria, Maria. Every time that we let me get a song. My boy Carlos Santana. Let me get a song popping in this bitch. I'm going to start playing that from now on. Every time I see Trump deport an illegal migrant, Every time I see Trump deport an illegal migrant, that's what I'm going to play from now on. Maria, Maria. That's what I'm going to start playing. I'm not going to keep on messing around with y'all. That is what I'm going to start playing from now on. When I see Trump deport an illegal migrant out of the United States of America, we go in here. Maria, Maria. That's what I'm playing from now on. Because I'm tired of people capping. I'm tired of people pretending like they don't know what's going on and they know exactly what's going on. Let me get back to the show.
We will press forward with our challenge to President Trump's authoritarian use of U.S. military soldiers against citizens. Right now, there are at least 4,000 troops and 700 Marines deployed in L.A. Meanwhile, the president's immigration crackdown led to a tense scene at Dodger Stadium Thursday morning. Dozens of federal officers in masks and tactical gear were positioned right outside the gate. A small group of protesters quickly gathered as well. The Dodgers posted on X saying ICE agents came to the stadium and requested permission to access the parking lots, but were denied entry. DHS responded to that post, claiming this had nothing to do with the Dodgers. They say CBP vehicles were in the stadium parking lot very briefly, but it was unrelated to any operation or.
Let me see something. FBI is saying that they're going to investigate who's funding these riots and these protests anyway.
I'm Bill Asaley, United States Attorney for the Central District of California.
And I'm Akil Davis, the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office.
And I'm Tyler Hatcher, the Special Agent in charge of IRS Criminal Investigation here in Los Angeles.
The right to assemble and protest peacefully is protected by law. Unfortunately, we've seen individuals whose intentions are to cause damage and to assault law enforcement. For example, last week we arrested an individual who was charged with conspiracy to commit and aiding and abetting civil disorders. These violent agitators put peaceful demonstrators at risk.
The FBI and our federal partners will continue to investigate individuals and organizations who are knowingly funding or committing acts of violence against law enforcement, as well as the destruction of property.
We are currently tracing money to determine who is providing funding for these riots. Funding crime doesn't just affect the criminals, it also disrupts entire communities. Each dollar funneled into illegal operations fuels violence, undermines law and order, and perpetuates fear. Make no mistake, we will identify and disrupt financial networks supporting these criminal activities.
Think before you act. The legal consequences for financing or aiding and abetting these crimes are harsh. They include imprisonment and fines.
If you have any information regarding individuals and/or organizations providing financial support to commit acts of violence or destruction of property, please dial 1-800-CALL-FBI or visit tips.fbi.gov.
They got to start sending some money out in order to be able to get these people. They do. They got to start sending some money out. That's the only way that you're going to really be able to capture these people. They probably got shell company after shell company after shell company after shell company. Y'all said Karen Bass said that Trump should pay. State of the Union, Karen Bass, State of the Union.
Hi, Mr. Wonderful here.
Let me see something. When did she say that? I don't see it. I don't see her saying that. When did she say that Trump should pay? I don't see it. Cost of protest. Where did y'all see that at?
We're joined now by the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen. We're joined now by the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. I think this is your first time in studio live on our 6 o'clock show, so it's great to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. So what do you know about what happened at Dodger Stadium today?
Well, you know what, Alex? This is the problem. We don't know. Officers are just showing up. We don't even know what type of officers they are. They're masked, as you saw. They don't present their ID. It said Border Patrol. Are they Border Patrol? Are they ICE? Are they Federal Protective Services? It is a sense of confusion and chaos. Our police department, our police chief, had no knowledge of this.
So is there something that can be done to ensure that people have to present IDs or badges if somebody is arresting somebody?
Well, you know what? That is supposed to be what happens, but we're in a situation where people are not exactly following the rules, are following what had been normal protocols.
Right. So, and is that also the protocol for the LAPD?
Yes, the LAPD absolutely has to show you their ID. And so you can just imagine the confusion that presents, and also the bad position that puts our police department in, because they're called out to defend the situation and they're not even sure what's going on. Why were they there? Were they staging because they were getting ready to do raids? Were they there because they wanted to do processing? They didn't even notify the Dodgers. They just showed up.
So we know that during the
Well, ICE now comes back and says that they actually had to get their vehicles out of the Dodger Stadium parking lot. So that is one of the things. The problem with what Karen Bass is saying, which she doesn't admit, is that they've already said, these sanctuary cities have already said that they're not going to work with ICE. So number one, they then can be preventative as far as trying to prevent them from being able to do their job. They don't have a good history of being able to work together, and they're actually against ICE. And how do we know that they won't then help migrants, illegal migrants, continue to do whatever it is that they do once you actually contact them and tell them, hey, this is what we're going to, if you say that you're not going to work with us, then why should they continue to hold you down? You know what I'm saying? So that's the problem. It's so interesting looking at them pour this concrete and build this building. Shout out to all of the people that is out here building the United States of America. I got to show y'all this shit real quick. Look at the workers out there hustling, grinding. And they everywhere. All down there, over there, they all on the ground. Look at all of that down there. Look at all of that. Shout out to the construction workers, bro. They really do get to it. They got the big old crane right there. And they're pouring all of that or whatever that they got going on over there. It's crazy. Then you got the crane operators right there. Then you got a crane operator all the way up in there. See my man down there working. All of these guys are regular people. None of these people are illegal. These are all union workers, actually. It's pretty tripped out to see how they build in this hotel. This is going to be a hotel right next to it. And that's the city. That's Detroit, all the way around there. All of that is Detroit. So, shout out to all of the construction workers that's grinding. To see it going up every day is crazy. Anyways, let's get back to this video.
Fires, you were public about the fact that you had a good working relationship with Susie Wiles, who was the White House chief of staff. Are you talking to her about any of this?
Well, actually, in the beginning, I did, but recently I haven't been. I also know that she's been very focused on the foreign policy right now. But yes, I mean, if you think about the fires, and you heard me say a number of times, and it's a controversial thing to say in Los Angeles, but give credit where credit's due, the administration was very supportive in terms of in the Palisades, which is the only area that I'm focused focused on in terms of getting us a tremendous number of Army Corps of Engineers so that we could get the debris cleared. Now we're in this situation that is completely perplexing to me.
I mean,
why are we here?
We don't
So,
have
I mean,
any
if-
illegals on
have you
that bill. It's zero illegals on that bill. These are all union contractors. I actually know the owner of this building and that that's building a hotel. It's the same. They're the same owners. They use the same construction company. There are zero illegals that is on this site. Zero. It's all white men, black men. Basically, it's all black and white men. Honestly, skilled tradesmen, union members, all of that. There are zero illegals that's on a property right here.
Talk to Stephen Miller.
No, I've never spoken to Stephen Miller.
So if you call the White House, do they call you back?
I put in a formal request to speak to the president. I've not spoken to them yet. But really, this has created a sense of fear and terror in our city. And it's having such an incredible toll. It's having a toll on the economy. It's having a political toll in terms of creating confusion. And it's having a real personal toll in terms of families.
Well, let's talk about the economy, because you visited some of these businesses downtown. And I know some of them told you that the situation is worse than COVID, because essentially they got a situation where their employees are afraid to come to work.
That's right.
Right. And some of their customers are afraid to come,
That's right.
come as well. And people are afraid to come to downtown at all because they think there's going to be chaos.
That's right. But we need to be very clear. There has not been chaos downtown for several days.
Right.
And the last time there were arrests, it was on Sunday. There have been nothing happening. It was the business community that appealed to the city hall to say, please give us a curfew. We did it. And the minute the rest went away, we lifted the curfew, and hopefully that will help the traffic downtown.
So, let's talk about the curfew in a second, but just in terms of the business impact on
Right.
Los Angeles, because I know we already had a budget challenge in
That's
terms
right.
of money going into this. What are you seeing and what are you doing about that?
Well, let me just give you an example. The Garment District, 4,000 independent businesses. It's a ghost town. I was in Mariachi Plaza on Father's Day. I visited restaurants. No one was there. You know, there should have been lines out in front. And so we have to make sure that people know their rights. But the bottom line is that the chaos that has been created by the administration, we were fine before the raids. Once the raids started, that's when chaos started. And it seems to be unprovoked. I don't know what led to them focusing on us, but I do feel like we're a part of an experiment. What happens when the federal government rolls up in a state and decides to take power away from the governor?
So this is how I look at this, all right? Because, of course, you're going to have a bunch of liberals that say, well, our businesses are being affected. All right. So let's put it in this lens. And I'm going to apply this to illegal migrants, right? Let's say, hypothetically, for the sake of conversation, that the dope boys is supplying and demand, and you got dope dealers, and you got all of these people that are running dope in and out of the hood, and the theft rings, and the chop shops is working, and the distributors, and all of this stuff, right? Which that then funds an economy of police officers, because then you'll have search and seizures, you'll have arrests, you can then use crime data and statistics, break-in, so on and so forth, to then justify a bigger police presence inside of the hood and inside of the cities or inside of the neighborhoods that are being taken over by dope boys, right? If the police presence then comes in, right? Because the police could be on payroll and all of that stuff, right? If the feds come in and shut everything down, they get tough on crime, and they arrest all of the dope boys, there's going to be people in the community that says, we don't want that police presence. As a matter of fact, it's affecting what it is that we have going on here inside of our hood. It's a lot of people that was feeding their families. It was a lot of money that was circulating inside of the hood. They're going to gentrify it and bring people in order to try to make it better and run the people that are inherently in the hood out of the hood. Now, the people that's in the hood, that's all they know, because that's all they used to. And so, they're going to be angry at police officers, and that's when you start to get the no snitching, fuck the police and all of that. But ultimately, we want our communities better. We want people that are actually taxpayers. You want to increase the value of your property and land. You want better schools. You want people to do the things the right way. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to get tough on crime. You got to root out the core of the problem. And so you got to get rid of all of the people. You got to do your drug buys. You got to work your way up. You got to do all of this stuff, right? You got to get convictions, everything. But what am I saying? My point is that me, from a C student's perspective, I look at this as the same way. Los Angeles, for example, has largely been dependent on illegal activity, mainly people coming over here across the border, doing things that they're not supposed to do. And then they use that as a justification. Well, all of the money is coming in. Well, if the cartel continues to fill people with money, if the cartel is, for example, keeping up an economy where it's not right, but it just continues to funnel money into it because we got to have jobs or we got to keep this thing up just because we need the money, is it right though? And do we need to have a reset inside of the United States of America so that we can do it? If you got a bunch of people that set this market, because they had that raid at the market the other day, right? At the swap meet. And you had all of these illegals that's over there selling illegal stuff that's not paying taxes. Because whenever you go to a swap meet, whenever you go to, all of these places, it's a cash exchange. It's not a one-for-one. It's never a one-for-one. So you got people selling stuff that's off the books, making money, sending money back to their people. And if they all illegal and they all doing illegal activity, really because they shouldn't be here in the first place, is that actually a great economy that we can sustain ourselves off of? Or do we need to reset so that we're doing the best thing for the American people? So what she's trying to justify is saying, oh, no, we was just fine with our economy and everything was going the way that it was going, even though that was $1 billion in the hole, before they came. But since they started arresting people that's not supposed to be here, everything is quiet. Well, that's because California has largely been an illegal state, and Los Angeles has been a safe haven for people that are doing stuff that they're not supposed to do. And so, no, you got to play by the same rules that everybody else got to play by, and you got to do the right thing. You can't keep justifying economies. I look at Texas, and let me tell you, one of the things that I hate about Texas, I'll be on Instagram and I'll be scrolling, and then I'll see some super massive fucking property that they're selling for $390,000. And it'll be right there on the border of Mexico. In some bumblefucks part of Texas, right on the border of Mexico, right? And we all know, everybody know, even the people in Texas know, it's cheaper and bigger in Texas because we got more land. No, nigga, that ain't true. It's because y'all out here using illegal migrants to build your houses. That's why it's cheaper. Because you refuse to pay, what do they call it? A livable wage. So nobody is absolved. Even red states are not absolved. And when you see some of this stuff play out, you got to start looking at it with the side eye. Wait a minute. Why are they building it so much faster? And why are they doing it cheaper? Because they're using illegal labor and they're using people that's not supposed to be here and they're paying under the table, and these companies is getting away with murder. They getting away with murder. So when I see this type of stuff, I just call it out like it is. No, nigga, it ain't bigger and better in Texas. Dog, you using illegal migrants in order to build your properties. You got Jorge and them out there pouring concrete and throwing up them properties fast as hell because they ain't got no protections.